Let's go!
Let's talk about this Mortal Kombat 1 thing. And it's not the best news. And I have some thoughts. You know, the thoughts I have about this entire Mortal Kombat 1, you know, extreme pricing DLC situation is also probably not great for the future of the game unless they change stuff. So, MK1 is doing something pretty wild. They have a storefront that we all know about. I spent 10 real-ass human dollars on the Scorpion Deadly Alliance skin because it was just, oh, that's really cool, you know? Granted, it's a skin. I do feel like I was getting gouged, for sure. I mean, but this is my job, so I'm fine with it. I'm not buying this new thing, though. This one's pretty egregious, man. The Happy Halloween Fatality. So, effectively, for anybody that doesn't know what this currency is, this like red currency, about 100 of these equals $1. And yeah, you better believe it. That's a $12 fatality for a spooky pumpkin, and they kick your head off and yada, yada, yada. Granted, I think Deadly Alliance Scorpion was also like 10 bucks when he came out. Although I was able to find a little bit of justification in that, just simply because, oh, this is something that I think a lot of people have been wanting for a long time, and a costume we haven't seen for a long time. So maybe, I mean, okay. But if you look at it, like a lot of these other costumes that they have on here are pretty remedial. Like, it's just a green skin with 2 different variations, right? They're just palette skins for certain characters, and these cost approximately $5 a piece. $5. Now, granted, I get a lot of people, it's like, why are you talking so much shit about NRS games? What's going on? Well, you know, not even a month ago, we made a video about $15 turtle costumes. $15 turtle costume. They cost a lot of money. Please buy it. $15 turtle costumes in Street Fighter were stupid. They were extra stupid. That was worthy of call out, or it's just like, what the hell's going on here? Like something even just for our avatars, and you barrage us with this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles music for the next 2 months? What the hell's going on? So the reason I think this bugs me, and the same reason why what happened with the balancing bugs certain people, but not everybody, is that a lot of people became Mortal Kombat fans when Mortal Kombat 11 became a thing. So they're kind of not used to how NRS approaches, you know, or much less WB approaches the franchise. For a lot of us that were like, oh, we're kind of worried when it comes to the way they're approaching balancing in this situation. It isn't just like, oh, we're worried right now, right? We're immediately concerned at the moment, and that's it. No, this stems from 10 plus years of the way NRS has approached their games. The reason we're concerned goes all the way back to games like Injustice 1, potentially goes all the way back to games like Mortal Kombat X and Injustice 2, and even MK11 to a certain degree. But if you don't have that perspective, then I understand why that might not be, you're like, oh, it's just one, they're just toning down the bullshit, like it's completely fine. But usually in a lot of the previous situations, there would be a lot of concerning choices of like balancing in these games until like the final balance patches they get, where the final patches are actually pretty good, but you have to deal with this stuff for a long time. So anyway, there's concern there. Related to this $12 fatality, I think there's concern here as well. Simply because we haven't seen this level of microtransactions or macro transactions, larger scale transactions than what has happened before. And this is pretty egregious because obviously these are the prices of things that you would see in free-to-play games, right? It feels like a lot of people have been comparing this to the sort of storefronts that exist in other games that are actually free to play at the start, and now it's a premium price game and everything's very expensive. Here's where my big gripe sort of lies with it all, because I could just be like, forget it, I'm good. You got to look back to the history. And Mortal Kombat X was a game that came out in 2015. Mortal Kombat was in a much different situation. It wasn't nearly as big as it is now. MKX was really the game to shoot Mortal Kombat into the stratosphere of like cultural understanding, close to that something of Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 and 3, like way back in the day. MK9 was really good. However, MKX was the game to launch it into this situation. Mortal Kombat X existed, and Mortal Kombat X gave us free fatalities. At one point in that game's development, they were adding things to Mortal Kombat X, just increase the value of the game. And they added these classic fatalities for a whole bunch of characters. I think the same thing eventually happened for Mortal Kombat 11, even though I didn't follow that as directly. But at one point, they're like, hey, you know what? We added these easy, simple fatalities for every single character. I think at one point that was just, you had to go to the store and buy it, but it was free. And for a large period of time, it was either free or had very little cost association with it. They were either part of the season pass or there was something. They were very small remedial charges. Something else happened in Mortal Kombat 10's lifetime, and it's something very specific to kind of give you a comparison of how different this is, how much of a polar opposite of what's going on with modern day WB and NRS, because I have to reiterate, I don't think this is NetherRealm Studios. I really don't. NetherRealm doesn't choose how much things cost. They don't choose how much development time they get even. They don't choose when things are released and all this kind of stuff. That is not their choice. This is completely down to WB, and unfortunately, WB does not have a great track record with this. The thing I wanted to show you is this. There's a little costume in this game that I have to go back and remember. And I'm pretty sure it's the right costume. Does anybody remember the cultural significance of this outfit? This was not free. No. This was not free. This costume cost 10 bucks. It was a $10 costume. The whole point of this costume is they were picking up off of a trend that Killer Instinct started about 6 to 8 months before. And the whole point of this costume was that this was crowdfunding. The point of this costume is that if you buy this costume, this helps crowdfund our professional tournament league. And it's like, oh shit, okay, that's cool. And yes, that increased the prize pools for the Mortal Kombat Tournament League, giving some pretty crazy payouts that Sonic Fox obviously got at the time. So yeah, this set a precedent from before where KI did the exact same thing. They're like, if we reach a certain budget to make Shadow Jago, we will actually put that money into our tournament. And they did the same thing. There were huge prize payouts for the Killer Instinct tournaments in like 2014, 2015. Very cool. I think Street Fighter V might have done something similar around that time frame. How is that relevant today? Well, how is that relevant by any means today? From what I understand, this costume did pretty well. Like, actually sold a lot. The developers were surprised by it. WB was surprised by it. Here's why we are going to route this back around to what's going on nowadays. This is still related to the $12 fatality, trust me. So I'm going to pull up a tweet from Rewind, one of the best NRS players there is. And he has had some issues with what's been going on with some of the prize pool stuff for the latest giant Mortal Kombat tournaments. And granted, this is a near $1 billion franchise. This is something that is not small, brother. So he says, shout out to Warner Brothers for putting on for the community. I'm so happy the Pro Comp is back. I can't wait for that 5th place bread to kick in. And for a large scale, one of the biggest official pro competition tournaments, one of the first ones for MK1, 5th place and respectively to 3rd place got less than $1,000. Below that, if you start to get to even less places, this doesn't even cost your airline ticket. They go on to mention things. Rewind has a pretty good point. Sonic Fox is shocked that they didn't do the crowdfunding thing they did with MKX, which made the prize pools significantly bigger. How is this relevant? This didn't happen again in Injustice 2 or even MK11. And MK11 was a much bigger game than MKX. Mortal Kombat became huge after Mortal Kombat X. MK9 was the game to like set them up, right? It definitely was. But if we're talking about sales and worldwide appeal, X put them on the map, and then 11 kind of hit the home run for a huge amount of casuals, and MK was friggin' massive after like Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 11. So what happens in the background is that now you get this franchise that is worth so much money. A lot of people are expecting the economics of this. Oh, you know, maybe the competitive NRS team or maybe the competitive NRS players are going to get some more compensation because of this. If you're hoping that a megalo multi-million, multi-billion dollar company is going to trickle down some of that revenue into what is essentially a prize pool for players, for a very small amount of people that play their game, that does not have a huge history of working out. So because of that, we're back to a situation like this, where now we got a new game, and there is a new game with an even bigger storefront of more stuff to buy. And these things in the storefront are increasing in price and are increasing in overall value, right? The price to associated value. And I hate to break it to you, but this is just lining up with everything else. I mean, this is just kind of lining up with the way that WB has been operating a lot of these NRS games for quite a long time. They got a lot of money from that Crimson Ermac skin, right? That Ermac skin in MKX sold quite a bit, and it made their competitive prize pool pretty huge at the time. However, you have to put your brain into the skull of an executive. You're a walking zombie, only motivated by money. You are essentially Scrooge McDuck with no charm. And you see the fact that, hey, that Crimson skin we did for that crowdfunding thing. What if we kept that money? What if we didn't do that competitive thing? Think anybody would notice? What if we just kept that money? And it feels like that has just been the case from this point forward, where they just don't do that anymore. It's been 3 games, dude. This is the 3rd game since they've done that. So a lot of the competitive NRS folks hoping that they do something like that to actually incentivize players for traveling across the country and doing all this bullshit to, you know, become bigger NRS players. You're finding that, yeah, the majority of pro players that exist in a lot of fighting game scapes that are not even just NRS are just staying home and making content because, you know, even the small bits they get making content is something. And if one of their videos grabs the algorithm on YouTube, well, that's definitely worth a lot more than $350 for 5th place in an absolutely stacked tournament of people that are chomping at the bit to become best in a new Mortal Kombat game. I'm really not surprised by this. I do hope it genuinely causes change, because it feels like a $12 fatality is very egregious. So this isn't the only developer to do this. We've called out Capcom on this recently in the past. Now it's like charging us for finishers, and this isn't even a expansion. It's kind of painfully clear now that they're trying to make up for something. And I think people are starting to get a little sick of it. I think that one Scorpion costume was like the beginning of it. It was like the start. You're taking off a few fingers with this, but okay, you know, all right, you got me. That's the way I felt about it. I think this is pushing it over the limit. It's a $12 cutscene for the most part. I just really hope that this is not the overall future of MK. Who knows about the sales of this game? I've seen a lot of goofy shit where it's like, oh, MK11 has more people playing on Steam than it does MK1, which I don't even know if that's technically true. But it certainly feels like the overall word of mouth for MK1 isn't nearly as heavily regarded as the previous games. It doesn't really feel like it is hitting that same level of like hype and excitement and overall joy that Mortal Kombat 11, much less Mortal Kombat X, hit for a large amount of people. But I hope this shit changes. Once again, I want to see MK1 sort of hit its stride. But as of right now, it's like the word of mouth on a lot of this shit is rough. There is one consistent thing that I will also back up. Myself and nearly everybody else that really likes Mortal Kombat likes the gameplay. This isn't something I'm excited to talk about, but I definitely think it needs to be spoken about. So.